In this video is every single fantasy football update from week 3 of NFL training camp that just finished. We'll start by going over players that are rising in value, big injuries and news updates, and one player at the end that is quite literally going to win leagues by himself. His ADP is insanely low for what he is, and you need to target him in all of your drafts. So make sure to stick around for that and subscribe if you want this video of training camp news every single week, because I will be continuing to recap it. But starting off with the biggest risers, it will be this Chiefs wide receiver room, or maybe the lack thereof. The wide receiver one is not exactly who you expect it to be. Last week we got updates that Rashee Rice's legal chapter is still ongoing and in the works by Rashee Rice himself. That is what he said. Now, we just saw Jordan Addison got a 3-game suspension for what he did. What Rice's situation is 5 times worse, so it's almost a guarantee that he will miss at least 4 games this season. Then in camp, he suffers a groin injury. It was pretty minor, but he did miss 3 straight practices because of it. He's clearly the number 1 option for the Chiefs right now, but with him out because of possibly the injury, not really, but more importantly, the legal stuff, it leaves us with Xavier Worthy, who had the perfect situation last year. All of the wide receivers were injured. He was the number 1 and still only averaged 11.7 fantasy points per game, finishing as the wide receiver 42. Hollywood Brown, who hasn't played a fully healthy season since 2021 and hasn't practiced all week either with an ankle injury. Juju Smith-Schuster, who doesn't really need any explanation. And then Jalen Royals, a guy who is coming in as a 4th-round rookie for the Chiefs, quietly been taking a ton of first team reps consistently every single time he's on the practice field. And I'm surprised nobody's really talking about him, because he was the number 1 target in Friday's practice of all of the receivers, all of the tight ends, everybody. And when Rashee Rice misses time, he will be that 1-to-1 slot replacement for exactly what he is. They're basically the same size, the same player build, and he was known for his yards after the catch in college. That ability is exactly what Rashee Rice is known for, and he has the talent profile to live up to this hype that he's getting. Out of 432 eligible D1 prospects from this year's draft class, Royals was 2nd in receiving yards per game in college last year, 5th in yards after contact, and top 10 in yards per route run, running a 4.42 40-yard dash. And Reed, the coach, was saying he's doing a nice job. He's catching the football well. He's strong, pretty much all positives. Now, you can't take coach speak too much into account. You got to look at the numbers, which is what we're doing, because coaches are always going to say their guy's doing good. And if they're saying he's not exactly where he needs to be, then everybody panics. So you have this kind of player that's tied to a quarterback and Patrick Mahomes on one of the best offenses in the NFL with lackluster running back play. You can assume they're going to continue to pass the ball a good amount. And Royals' ADP really has not moved at all for what he's doing in training camp right now. He's the wide receiver 130 under guys like 3rd string Chargers running back Hassan Haskins, 4th string Seahawks receiver Jake Bobo, Jonathan Mingo, never going to touch the field. Even Cordero Patterson, a 35-year-old running back who just got cut from his team, is going ahead of him in ADP. He is possibly the best late-round, last-pick candidate you can get in your draft. And we have to remember, rookies typically do start off the year pretty slow, so the breakout probably won't happen until the second half of the year. But again, considering Rashee Rice is definitely going to miss time with the Chiefs, it gives Jalen Royals an opportunity to come in and make a name for himself. And there's a real chance that he gets consistent playing time even after Rice comes back. So keep an eye on him, or keep an eye on this YouTube account, because I will continue to give you guys updates every single week throughout the season and in training camp to make you the most knowledgeable football player in your entire group of league mates. But a big name deserving all of the hype right now that he's getting is Emeka Egbuka for a few reasons. Let's set the scene here. Give you guys a little bit of the facts. He's going as the wide receiver 54 on ESPN, which is criminally too low, by the way. Wide receiver 44 on every other draft site. And a quick note, there are tons of players going rounds later on ESPN specifically that it doesn't make any sense. Like, especially rookies, they're going way lower in ADP than the projections and the consensus data proves them to be going. If you want a full video on the discrepancy between that and what players are really, really good values on ESPN draft sites, for example, let me know in the comments. I will make that entire video out for you. But the wide receiver 54, that's round 11. That ADP, again, is criminal. He has been the number 1 most targeted wide receiver through the entire training camp the Buccaneers have held. Yes, over guys like Mike Evans. He's consistently open. He looks very crisp in the routes that he's running, and he's consistently getting praise from everybody inside the building. But most importantly, his play backs it up. He's a record holder at OSU with 205 receptions, 2,868 yards. You combine this with the offense that was 4th in yards per play last year, 4th in points per game, very efficient, which now we don't have Chris Godwin. He's expected to miss sometime. If you look at the reports here, he's on track, but expected to miss week 1. He's going to be 30 years old this season. And as an organization, you don't go out and take a 1st-round pick on an elite talent wide receiver if everything is smooth, all of your guys are healthy, and you don't want to pivot. Now, These guys are getting old. Chris Godwin, again, is going to be 30. Mike Evans is 32 right now. They will replace him with Emeka Egbuka when the time comes, but they're clearly compensating for something. His ADP will likely continue to rise, and this price is going to keep going up. But as of right now, I am pressing that draft button on him every single chance I can get, and you should also be pressing that subscribe button if you haven't already, because nobody is giving you information like this on YouTube to help you make the best decisions in every single aspect of fantasy football. I'd love to be in your rotation this year for videos, but a guy that everybody is a bit on edge about this season because of previous years is Jalen Waddle. And before I get into it, 10 fantasy points per game last year, wide receiver 49, missed 2 games. That's not great. The year before that in 2023, 14.2 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 24, missed 3 games. He definitely has not done a ton and is not the most predictable wide receiver since Tyreek came to the team. He had a lot better fantasy finishes before that. But speaking of that, in camp so far, he has been the most consistent, unguardable receiver and making true competition for Tua's number 1 target so far. Now, obviously, Tyreek Hill is always going to be the number 1, but what's good about this team dynamic is when Tua is healthy, the team is forced to throw relatively short. Defenses weekly are running 2 high safety looks because they want to keep Tyreek in front of them, which, again, allows the middle of the field to open up, which is why Jonnu Smith was so efficient last year, and part of the reason Tyreek Hill was not as efficient in fantasy. The Dolphins are forced to use him in screens, the defenses are making Tyreek stay in front of them, and teams obviously want that to happen. But what Tyreek does is loosen up the middle of the field for the rest of these guys like Jalen Waddle. Again, Tua is healthy. Stats prove when he is healthy, this offense works. And maybe even the biggest aspect of this, Jonnu Smith is not on the team anymore. This is a guy that was taking some of the most designed targets on the team. Yes, over Tyreek. Without him there, there's going to be so much more opportunity for these guys. Waddle's strength has always been his per route production. He's never been a high volume guy. He just doesn't get the highest target share, which is part of the problem. But now with Jonnu Smith out, you would expect that to jump that much more. He has gotten extremely unlucky in the touchdown department last year. You can expect positive regression there. And again, he's been looking very, very good in camp. There was one practice where he had over 3 touchdowns. A tip for you guys, though, when you are drafting and when you are looking at all these videos on YouTube, training camp news a lot of the time is just buzz and it's not actual information that you can stick by, which is why you need to look at the actual data. What matters is the stats, what he looks like in training camp, and the scheme they're running. Waddle looks good in all of those aspects. He is a high ceiling player, but he's also a little bit more of a risk, again, because of what he is as a guy, as a wide receiver 2 in this offense. He's the wide receiver 28 on ESPN. Another guy going criminally low in ADP on this site. He's going wide receiver 22 everywhere else. He's a guy that I'm looking at. We'll see what kind of buzz he continues to get if he jumps, but right now, he's a fine value. But a backfield that is proving to be insanely important to fantasy football success and a group of breakouts that could possibly be on your team. When you look at their ADP on all ends of the spectrum, they're everywhere. But the running back here, the backfield you want to be looking at is DeAndre Swift. This is a big skyrocketing in value situation for this week 3 of training camp. And DeAndre Swift specifically has been climbing in ADP and climbing in value, which is good because he's valued way too low. But he jumped almost a full round to the RB20 in most draft sites. He's going next to guys like Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, DJ Moore. And because of that, there's a few reasons I'm starting to draw back on him. The main one, again, being we're reaching that point to where he's almost being drafted at his peak fantasy football production, which you never want to do in fantasy. I expect him to keep rising in ADP, again, eventually getting to that point. But this is because there is a wide range of outcomes for him. He's never finished outside the top 25 running backs ever, but he's also never finished inside the top 10. The closest he ever got to that was in 2021 when he was the RB1 overall in target share. But Ben Johnson is a huge upgrade. They beefed up their offensive line a ton. They ranked 32nd last year. Now they're projected in 2025 to be the 11th best offensive line. It's all green flags. Again, the best coaching hire of the offseason in Ben Johnson. But every single year Ben Johnson has been a coach with the Lions, he's led 2 running backs to finish top 25 in fantasy football points per game with guys like Jamal Williams, David Montgomery, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs. Everybody is getting top 25. So we can expect that to be brought over to the Bears. And you look at DeAndre Swift, he is clearly going to be the number 1, but who else is behind him in this depth chart? And I will tell you, Kyle Monangai is a guy that I think will be that number 2 over Roschon Johnson. Pretty much straight up, he's a better running back than he is. Roschon has been on the team long enough. There's been enough injuries to this backfield for him to get the number 1 role. He just hasn't done anything with it, and they go and draft a rookie for a reason. But the role and the play style that these running backs have is going to be what's more important, because within the offensive scheme, it looks like Roschon Johnson could split the lead goal line work with DeAndre Swift as of right now. That definitely isn't going to be good. But then the pass catching is probably going to be split between Swift and Kyle Monangai, mostly Swift again. So there is a very real chance we get stuck in a situation of a very light 3 running back by committee. Swift will probably get most of everything, but these 2 guys are going to be thorns in his side until somebody gets injured. As of Swift's value, I think he still is one of the last good running backs in the tier that he's going in right before the RB dead zone. So I'm taking him and avoiding the rest of those guys by all means, which is why I want to be starting my fantasy drafts more running back heavy in the first 5 rounds, because there is a ton of startable wide receivers you can get on your flex spot, even in your bench and on the waiver wire. But again, I will continue to update you guys on this Bears situation because it most definitely will be some type of committee. We don't know how intense it will be, but make sure you are subscribed for that because nobody else is doing it like this. But the part of the video you need, and the biggest ADP riser over the last week, honestly over the last 3 weeks, that I 100% agree with and data agrees with me and backs that up, is Travion Henderson. And he quite literally is the best player on the offense for the Patriots every single day, practice, and preseason game. If we look at his first snap of NFL football in the preseason last week, he took a 100-yard kickoff to the house as his first touch, had 1 run, 18 yards, 3 catches for 12 yards. He is literally everywhere on this offense, but he is the best pass blocking running back in the rookie class over guys like Ashton Genty, Amarion Hampton. He is one of the most capable receiving running backs in the class. No fumbling issues, unlike Ramondre and Antonio Gibson, who totaled 9 fumbles last season, and he will likely lead the goal line role pretty much instantly with this offense, again, because of how much these guys fumbled, along with the high impact parts of the field, which again is the goal line and pass catching role. That is what matters for scoring fantasy points, and he is Drake May's most targeted player through all of the first 3 weeks of training camp. Not even any of the receivers. This running back is the most targeted guy. He's dominating in red zone opportunities in camp. He is the most efficient guy. Again, he had over 5 touchdowns in 1 practice last week. You get all of this at the price of the RB23. But I promise you, especially after that preseason game, he is going to jump in ADP to a massive amount, probably over guys like DeAndre Swift, a ton of guys. You do have to understand that this is still a rookie in a developing offense. It's not completely proven yet. He is more of a risk, but he does have the return that could be worth it for you in the high ceiling that you can't be ignoring. And there is a chance that he does start the season and more or less disappoints everybody because maybe he's not on the field a ton. Maybe the offense is struggling. He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. It's not a perfect situation by any means, but rookies do statistically perform better in the second half of the year. His ADP is probably going to continue to climb. Maybe at that point, we revisit it. But as of right now, we are drafting him. And even if you want to play it smart, you can let everybody else draft him if his ADP keeps climbing up into the top 15 running backs. Trade for him as a buy low candidate in week 3, maybe week 4. And that's where you're going to get all of your value because he might start out a little bit slow. But again, this guy is the best talent, the best running back on the Patriots roster. And I post videos like that to help you out all season long throughout the fantasy football year. So make sure to be subscribed if you aren't already. I would love to be a part of your rotation and be something new for you. Everything on this channel is backed by statistics and data. There's no bias anywhere. I'm going to give you every side of the football to make those decisions in fantasy for yourself. But that is going to finish out this video of the week 3 training camp news for fantasy football. Thank you guys for watching, and I will post week 4 when that comes next week. Make sure to be around for that. All glory to the man above.